White House economist Joe LaVorgna has been predicting a V-shaped recovery, but all contingent upon a relief package, which is still on hold. Join us now is Joe LaVorgna. He's a special assistant to the president for economic policy and the National Economic Council's chief economist. And before you joined the White House, I think you were kind of positive as well. And I was going to start the interview by saying, do all your peers just sort of not speak to you anymore and sort of walk the other way when they see it? Because as far as economists go, very few have said V-shaped, and many, many, many more have said this will not be V-shaped. But you're sticking to it.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. I mean, the one thing I will say is that the talks that are going on now, or the talks that have stalled, actually, we'd like them to occur. The president's going to take action to do what he thinks is best for the populace and through executive order to get the economy moving in even stronger fashion. But we're in good shape right now, and that's important. In terms of my peers, they've been pessimistic. That, to me, partly reflects, Joe, the fact that they missed the recovery coming out of 08, 09, and probably were a bit careful in thinking the economy could snap back. But to us, it just reflects the fact the economy was very healthy right before we had this pandemic contraction. And when we look at a lot of the data, such as retail sales, housing starts, permits, automobile production, Joe, they are all back above the pre-coronavirus high. I mean, the V is there. The question is, will it continue? And we believe it will. And we are encouraged by the fact that our mitigation efforts seem to be working. New daily cases are down. This is a remarkable statistic, are down 36% from their July 25 peak. So we're moving in the right direction. There's more work to do, but we like what we see.
You've been on a lot, Joe, and when you had been on in the past before you were part of the administration, when I would ask you things, it would be easier for you to say these things. Now I can just tell you with the White House in the backdrop, how a lot of what you say is just going to be discounted as part of the part of the spin that the White House wants to put on all these things. But I genuinely think that before you did that, you were going against the entire pack that really expected things to stay bad for much longer and had no idea that the stock market could possibly rebound to this extent.
Yeah, Joe, thank you. I mean, look, the economy, I'm generally an optimist. I mean, there was a famous book written a number of years ago called The Triumph of the Optimist, and it talked about different countries in the 20th century and how the U.S. had prospered. So I'm an optimist. I guess that's my bias. But I was pretty excited about growth in 2018-19. And the sad thing is, before this pandemic contraction hit, underlying productivity growth had been accelerating upwards of 2%, and it may not seem like a lot, but I believe we were on track for a 3% plus economy this year, absent the virus, and that's important. To me, that reflects very good business policies that are employing people, giving good middle-class jobs. We saw wage trends moving higher, and that's what I believed before, and in my old capacity, I got paid for being correct. So I like to think that I'm unbiased and that I'm giving the president and Director Kudlow and others good advice and what I see in terms of markets and economic data.
Hey, Joe, it's Brian Sullivan. Good to chat with you. Listen, I want to flip it to schools. We've been talking a lot. It's the time when schools are supposed to be going back. Tens of millions of kids either will not go back for a couple weeks or months or not go back at all for this semester. What's going to happen to the economic recovery when the parents of those kids, many of whom maybe they can't work remotely, they work at a restaurant or a hotel or a grocery store, what's going to happen to the recovery when those families can't get child care, their kid is stuck at home, and they can't go to their job or look for a job because those kids are at home? What's going to happen to the recovery?
Brian, first of all, I'm very happy I'm on with you at around 8 o'clock and not 5 a.m. So it's good to hear your voice.
Me too.
Look, one of the reasons why we would like to pass legislation is because part of the Phase 4 was $105 billion for school, for PPE, for testing, and that was actually a bit more than what the Democrats wanted. So there's important work we'd like to get done if we can. In terms of different areas and locales, what I can tell you is some of the data we're seeing in the hot spots have really improved. And we're hoping that in some of the instances, people will be able to go back to school safely. We do have a lot of momentum, so that's helping. And if these cases, Brian, continue to move lower, I've got to hope that we can continue to open up safely and more people will go back to school than what maybe seems the case right now. Unfortunately, as you may guess, the good news kind of gets pushed off to the side. And I don't want to be a Pollyanna here, but there's some really good news, even on the economic data. For example, people saying, oh, the economy can't continue this rate. Well, we've had this dramatic recovery, and you kind of missed a lot of the improvement we've had in the data. So it's easy to say, oh, things are going to slow. So, again, I'm an optimist, and I think we're going to make some real progress in the fall, and hopefully people can get back to school.